action. Hey guys, welcome back to Keeping It 99 here with another episode. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Bishoy Nassif. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Of course, anytime.
So today we're going to be talking about one of your hobbies, which is the gym. So my first question for you is, why do you work out?
So why I started is different than why I actually do. When I started, I was just chubby middle schooler. And I saw like some people who were my age who like looked a lot better than me, and I was like, I kind of want to be like that. So that's the reason I started it, and then I got into it. I really loved it, and I actually really enjoy actually doing it rather than the results. You know what I mean? It's and there's this common misconception that people who go to the gym, they go because they want to be better than other people or because they just want to look shredded. No, some people actually legitimately enjoy it. They enjoy the journey of working hard and achieving their goals. They enjoy that. They don't do it to discipline themselves. And also it's great for your mental health. People think that you work out, all you're gonna get is you're working on your body, you're not working on your mind. No, it actually strengthens your mind where you push yourself and you do things that are you wouldn't think you'd be able to do. So, and it strengthens your mind that way too. And there's the science behind, your brain releases dopamine, but that's a little bit deeper, But my point is it helps you mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. So that's why I work out now. Of course, I originally started in for a little bit of a more shallow reason, but the results the same.
So you mentioned something about how working out has strengthened you mentally.
Mm-hmm.
How much how do you think the gym has shaped you when it comes to discipline?
So when you tell yourself, I'm gonna work every single day, and you don't have to, if you don't feel good for a day, you don't have to kill yourself, but you don't have to go very hard, but you can go to make sure you're consistent, which is a very valuable lesson in life. You want to be good at anything, you need to put in the work, you need to be consistent with it. You need to give it everything you have every single day. So it also strengthens you, as in you got one more rep, and then you tell yourself no, my mind is telling me I'm gonna do this, and I'm not gonna listen to my body, and that way.
I mean, I agree. I think working out is very important when it comes to the mind and to discipline. But do you think that discipline that you've gained throughout going to the gym, do you think that has kind of applied to other aspects of your life, or do you think it kind of just stays in the realm of working out?
Yes and no, because working out is more of a thing I actually enjoy. It's not a consequence, you know what I mean? It's not something I have to do. It's something I actually like doing. But yes, because there are days where I actually don't feel like doing it. There are some days where I'm just exhausted mentally, physically, but I still tell myself no, you need to go. And that translates over the days where I don't necessarily want to study, but I tell myself no, it's something you have to do. It's something that just when you don't feel like going to the gym, you work out. When you don't feel like studying, you study, just as an example. So yes and no at the same time.
So have you ever found yourself just wanting to quit, stop going to the gym completely, and just kind of live an easier life?
Yes, sometimes I look at people who've trained the exact same amount of time or even less. They look better than me. They're leaner than me. They lift more. They're more advanced, and they've been working at less time or the exact same amount of time. But sometimes when I looked at that, I would be dang, is this really worth it? I'm doing this to myself every single day. But that taught me another valuable lesson, which is you are against yourself from yesterday. You don't compare yourself to anybody else. You are, it's you versus you. It's not you versus anybody else. And also comparison is the thief of all joy. If you compare yourself to everybody, you're always going to find they have something you don't have. So you just focus on yourself. Sorry. make sure you're 1% better than you were yesterday, and you don't. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing.
I agree. I really like the point you made about comparing, where, you know, comparison. What do you say was the thief of all joy?
Mm-hmm.
So you said actually really like that, and that goes, I think, way beyond just working out, right? In all aspects of life. I mean, and I think it's a consequence of social media, where people are always competing against each other, whether they realize it or not. You know, you see something and you're like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to be like that. So for you, as someone who goes to the gym and who's always, you know, not maybe consciously comparing yourself to others, but you kind of are. You see what other people are doing. How do you manage that?
Well, when I, for instance, go and I do one more rep than I did the last day, or 5 more pounds, something like that, that gives me more motivation to actually continue, because even if I'm not where somebody else is, it still makes me happy that I'm better than myself yesterday. So, no matter really like how good I see like somebody that's like really good, I still manage to, tell myself, no, like it's you versus you, and you are making progress. Don't worry about anybody else. And one more thing I might want to add is, you look at social media, you find these people like Alex Eubanks, Sebum, all these fitness influencers who are like, not all of them are obviously on steroids, some of them are, but even if they're not on steroids, they got like top 1% genetics. A lot of people look at that and they're like, dang, why don't I look like that? But truth is, like, these people, they're like top 1%, and a lot of people, they're scrolling through social media all the time. There's people who are like, they see people that are way better than them. They don't realize that it's the top 1%, or, it's just really good lighting, which, by the way, everybody on Instagram mainly does. They take the best possible photo of themselves, best possible lighting, and their abs are flexed, for instance, which nobody walks around with their abs flexed, you know what I mean? Like, you walk around with your belly loose, And look at that, and they're just like, man, like, and that's also why, like, I like to make them, like these influencers, they give me motivation, like, that they also didn't look very good, but I don't compare myself to them in a way.
So you kind of see it as like a goal,
Mm-hmm.
but not you don't you kind of want to you don't want to look like them. You want to work like them.
Exactly.
That's
yes,
the type of thing.
That's exactly.
Okay, I see that. It's actually very good. I think, a lot of times people, when they could try to compare the results, and sorry, like a lot of people, I don't know whose it is. I think it's mine. A lot of people, like, they like to compare the results when it's like you have to compare.
It's all good now, I think.
Okay. So a lot of people, they want to, compare the results without comparing like the journey, or like how to get there.
Exactly.
And kind of like the work to get there. A lot of people, they see these influencers, or in all aspects of life, not just in working out, where they see people who are at these like, places where they want to be. And a lot of times we forget the work that it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that social media really misconstrues, is that you see the result and you don't see how to get to that result. Whether that's, working hard, steroids, whatever it is. A lot of people just kind of like, oh, I want to be like that. But like, are you willing to put in the work to be like that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, everybody, for instance, looks up to, like, soccer players, Cristiano Ronaldo, basketball players, LeBron, but the amount of work and discipline it requires every single day, and luck too, might I add. Like, they're not lucky in a way because they still have to work, but anytime you are very successful at something, there is actually that one component of luck that you do need, that is like an actual thing. And not everybody is made for everything. Like, you can be not good at something and you're just not made for it, you know what I mean? And that's also something that people, like, sometimes you are just not made for certain hobby, certain sport, it's just how it is. But you gotta find other things in your life that you enjoy, that are beneficial to you. Like, not everybody can be Cristiano Ronaldo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what other things do you do then other than the gym that you would say hobby-wise that kind of impacts you in a positive way?
Nothing. No, I'm kidding. Well, recently I started playing lacrosse. So obviously I'm not particularly good at it, but the concept of self-improvement and trying new things translates over from the gym. So, for instance, like in the gym, I don't always like do the same thing every single day. Like if I find something's not working, I try new stuff. Works. You have to do that in life too. Like you need to try other things. Personally, when I was trying out for the lacrosse team, I did not think I would make it, but I just kind of went for it. You know what I mean? You gotta in life you gotta take some chances and not care what everybody thinks of you. Like if I didn't make it, I'm sure there would have been some people who are like, "Oh, Bishoy, like he doesn't make it," But I just shut that out. I tell myself I'm here for myself. I want to improve myself. I want to do something for me, and I'm kind of lucky I made it, but it's just gotta try new things. You know what I mean? So and I'm trying to work every day so I can get better at new sport I'm trying. I really enjoy it. I'm gonna be honest.
So on that subject of self-improvement, obviously you work out, you're trying new things, but what other things are you doing to try and maybe improve your mindset or, the other people like call exterior things, they're more like interior things.
Yeah.
That kind of connect those things together, like the glue.
So one thing that's very important for your mind, like for anybody really, anybody should do this, not just like gym goers or lacrosse players or basketball. It doesn't matter. You need every day to organize your thoughts and have some sort of time where you just don't think of anything and you just slow down. When you're in life every single day and you're, just moving from this to this to this to this, you need some time where by yourself you just think about things. So in other words, you need to meditate, where you just sit for a good few. It doesn't have to be like an hour. You can sit for 5 minutes just thinking of nothing, so you can understand your thoughts, understand your emotions, and slow down, which is something I do, just like every day, just a little bit. And I know you're thinking 5 minutes, that's like nothing. No, some people, they try to sit down, they can't sit down for a minute without doing anything. Like they need to be just doing something, you know what I mean? So that's really important. And one more thing is you need time for God every single day too, right? You need to, first of all, like when you read the Bible, you are opening up your mind to new ideas, and you're listening to God's word. And also when you pray to God, you also get a little bit of a better understanding of your own self. You know what I mean? Like when you pray to God, like you know more what's going on inside of you. So it's very important that you understand, like, when this happens, I do this. When this happens, I do this. And I try and do that also on self-improvement. Like you need to be, as a man, you're more than just a body. You're a mind, soul, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so I think like those are two great things, and I think a good culmination of the two, if you will, is something called quiet time. Like quiet time and journaling, something that I've been doing recently as well, and it really does make a difference. Sitting down in quiet, no thoughts, just let everything rest in your mind, and then to journal. What's going on in my life? What are things I need to improve on? What just list out things, because there's something about writing it down. Something else I've started doing is writing down prayers. Right? It's like kind of like time with God, like talking to God, and you don't realize like how much you learn about yourself. The more you spend time with God, the more you learn about yourself. It's crazy because we're made in the image of God. Like it's not a joke. Like we are made in the image of God. So all the characteristics that God has, all those positive characteristics, we can find in ourselves. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people try to use journaling or quiet time to kind of like push out the bad, right? To like think about, oh, it's bad. Let me write it down. Like I need to stop this. I need to stop that. I need to stop this. And a lot of people forget that you can use that same time to kind of be like, I need to work on this quality. Like I need to be, nicer, kinder, whatever it is, more compassionate, right? And a lot of people, instead of, planting the seeds and trying to grow new things, they try to cut the old. And obviously, like you have to cut the old to grow the new, but I think you need both, right? Because if you keep cutting weeds and you don't plant anything in the place of it, they're gonna come right back up, right? So I really like the quiet time. I really like that stuff. I think it's vital for everyone to do, to sit down, regardless of what you do in life, just to sit down for a little bit every single day. And 5 minutes is a long time for just doing nothing. You'll be like 2 minutes into it and you'll look up and 3 minutes are left and you're like, it's crazy. That's a very, very long time to sit in absolute stillness and quietness. So, but I really like that. And I think it's very, very important for all people in general.
Mm-hmm. And when you write, or like not when you write, like for me, when I'm just thinking, like, you remember that your day is more than just, like, let's just say you've had a bad day and you remember and you talk about, not talk about, like you, like talk about with yourself sort of, about like what happened. You notice that your day is more than just that one bad thing, that you've actually had, multiple good things. It reminds you of the blessings you have that many people don't. And everybody has blessings. Like there is nobody in the world whom God hasn't given. Everybody has equal opportunity, but it's different. You know what I mean? Like not everybody has the exact same thing, but everybody has something they can work with, and blessings that other people don't. No one has everything though, and I went a little bit off track there, but my point is that it helps you in that way where you realize like, wow, I still have this and this. I still did this and this. Maybe it's not that bad of a day,
Yeah, and I mean that humility of not knowing, or of knowing that you don't have everything, that leads to self-improvement, right? Just the fact that you're like, yeah, I don't got everything together, I don't know everything. It allows you to take your energy and to put it into things that improve you, like working out, like, learning new skills, whatever it is. And, by a lot of times people will, like, when it comes to working out or whatever, they'll just do it, right? Kind of like go through the motions. Like, I'm going to work out to work out, or I'm going to podcast to podcast, or I'm going to read just to read. Whereas, like, you always have to look at what you can gain out of those things, right? When I go to the gym, what can I gain out of the gym? Obviously, get bigger, discipline, more self-confidence, all these, whatever, list off all these things. And you have to work towards them. Like, write them down and be like, within a year, I don't know, like, I need to be more disciplined in this area. And then by going to the gym, you see like the progress you've made, right? In the same way where it's like, this podcast, like if I just did it just for fun, right? I would never get anything out of it. But it's like, I need to do this to learn about other people, learn about, kind of take myself, put in other people's shoes, don't really just think about myself, right? So I think, you're okay. I think one of the best things we can do as humans is notice our weaknesses and then try to do something to counteract that. And I think that's like really what the basis of self-improvement is. But a lot of people kind of just see self-improvement as just like, there's a certain list of tasks you can do and you will improve. But for everyone, it's different.
And there's a very like essential question. It's like, why do you want to improve? Like you need to, if you have motivation to do something, like not motivation, but like if there's a reason as to why you're trying to improve yourself, trying to do this, do that, you will always like do it. You know what I mean? Like you have that reason in the back of your mind. You're like, I need to do this today because of this. You know what I mean? Which is just really important. If you want to be disciplined towards something, you actually have to have like a reason behind it. And one thing might add too is like going back to the gym, like when you work out, every day, you come back, you work out, let's just say Monday, you come back on Tuesday, you look at yourself in the mirror, you won't see any change. But over a long time, you will find that yes, it actually works, but the change every day is so small that you don't notice it, which is how everything in life works. You don't get better overnight. You get better just a little bit every single day until that change has become something that makes a difference. You understand what I mean?
I get 100%. Yeah, I get it. And it goes back to something that actually Abu and Nate said yesterday in the servants meeting. Real quick, if you haven't watched episodes with him, they're up there. And something he said that was very striking to me. It goes back to like what you said about the goals. Like if I say I want to lose 10 pounds, but I don't, there's no end in mind, right? It's just, I just want to lose 10 pounds. You're never going to lose 10 pounds. There has to be like a reason why, like a goal, like I want to lose 10 pounds because whatever, like I want abs. You know what I'm saying? It's a dumb reason, but that will motivate you to do it, right? In the same way where it's like, if I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to read, 10 pages a day, just because. I'm not going to make a week. But if I'm like, I'm going to read because, I want to increase my vocabulary, or because I want to, kind of learn new information. I want to learn more about this subject or more about this, or grow myself in this way. When you're specific like that and you have the end goal in mind, you'll be able to, kind of push through the rough things, which I think is something that obviously you've done with your thing in the gym, where it's like, my goal is to be better than I was yesterday. Mm-hmm. So every single day your end in mind is better than yesterday. And so that pushes you to do better than yesterday. Whereas if you were just like, oh, whatever, like you would never, get any better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a little bit off topic, but
that's fine.
There is a reason why people, like to have kids, is because when you have kids, you have a reason to get up every single day. And, a lot of people, they're like single, for instance, or like they don't have anything. And they're like, my career is more important than anything else. But really, what's going to happen when you're successful in your career and you have nobody else to enjoy that success with you? You know what I mean? When you have like a family and kids, there's people who are gonna, enjoy that, and you're gonna feel like you have a reason every single day to get up, do better, and support your family. So it's a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to point that out, that, that's why like there's so many people like that, have kids. That's just what I wanted to say,
I mean, yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons, and I think, kind of the direction that the world is going, right? Where it's always about self-improvement, mm-hmm. and self-improvement is great.
Yeah.
But it's always self-improvement. Why? Because of me. Whereas you should be self-improving because of others. Not to please others, but in the way where it's, I'm going to self-improve so I can be of more service to those around me.
Exactly.
Right? I want to be better so I can be a better friend to those around me. Like, I want to be a more active listener so I can, listen to people's problems better and help them out more. I want to, learn more about certain things so I can be more educated when people come and ask me about them, right? It's always the Christian mindset is always what can I do to serve God's children better, and so instead of it's like what can I do to be better, which is great, but I feel like that's like a very elementary level of what self-improvement is, and a lot of people just stop right there, and they're like, oh, I'm content with where I'm at, because it's just for me. Whereas if you think about it, like, you can always help more people, right? You're never going to be able to help however billion people are on the planet right now, right? Like, you have to one at a time, so you always get better. So I think it's just something, and I would just like to get your thoughts. Like, a quick question is like, as someone who is part of the church, and as someone who is soon, you're going to be going into the service, and trust me, it's rough. What are things where you would look yourself in the mirror and you would be like, like, there are some things that I need to improve on. What is kind of, no need to get specific, but like, what is the path, that you think you're going to take in the next year to kind of make yourself more, more like a servant serving others? It's very different than being served. So like, I just want to get like, kind of your thoughts. Just kind of curious, like, what do you think that journey will look like?
So anytime like you're in service, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it so that the people you're serving can get closer to God somehow, right? And in order for you to do that, you have to have like a close relationship with God, or else it's not really possible. Because how are you going to make people closer to God when you're not? and I'm not afraid to admit this. I don't put God in my life enough. I mean, yeah, I might pray every day, read the Bible, but like that's not really like you wanna have like an intimate relationship with God where you like understand Him, sort of. It's kind of like this thing, like, and I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I would like to improve on that, and I feel like that's just like extremely vital. Really, like it's just everything when it comes to service. Because if you have God, everything will be fine. So that's one. And two is that I do need to work on my maturity a little bit. Like sometimes when kids would be like saying like the funniest things ever, I just have to laugh too. Like
Yeah, that's me too.
yeah. And I gotta be like a role model. I can't be like, if I just laugh with the kids, that's it's not gonna work. But that's something else that I have to work on. And yeah.
I mean, I think like the first one is honestly the most vital in general in life, not just in service. It says like David was a servant after God's own heart. Like just think about like what that means. Like God said that himself. Like David is after my own heart. Mm-hmm. Like think about like what the heart of God is. It's crazy, right? And that's like the ultimate self-improvement journey, right? Going from human to God's heart. That's like that will encompass your entire life. And I think my Sunday school lesson today was about the Agbeya and prayer. And it's a good reminder for me. Obviously, I'm telling these kids, you need to pray, every day, the whole Agbeya, all 7 hours. Right? The verse of the day was 7 times a day I praise you. Like that was the memory verse I gave them. Right. And it's a good reminder myself where it's like, you need to prioritize God in everything. And I think, a lot of these self-improvement things, if you will, a lot of them are almost like, they like mimic, like try to imitate getting closer with God, but they're not. Oh, yeah. Right, like your example is yoga, very big example. You know my thoughts on yoga, but like yoga is a big example. Working out, obviously people do that. Like a lot of people worship working out, or it's like reading, stuff like that, where it's like kind of like God, like reading, kind of like reading the Bible, but you're not actually reading the Bible, or people who are like, I'm gonna work out. If you think about it, it's like discipline, fasting, prayer, like Lent, like that type of stuff, and a lot of times you don't notice that there are these parallels. And a lot of people, something that one of the early fathers said was, if I were Satan, I would try to mimic God as much as I could, right? So not saying that working out is Satan, not saying that those things are necessarily satanic, but in certain ways, if you take them without God with you, it drives you completely out of the church, because anything you do, if you don't take God with you, you're asking for trouble. So
yeah, that's unfortunately like a very common theme in the world right now, where people do stuff that is actually from the Bible, but they don't like to admit it. Like for instance, let's take Christmas as an example. For instance, people like to leave God out of Christmas when really like it's about Jesus and Christ's birth. So that's just an example. Like it is a common theme of the world where like there will be like stuff that is really from God, from the Bible, but they'll just forget about it in the name of inclusivity or whatever. So not to get too political, but that's...
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think like the most important thing is making God the center of your life. Like one of the things that in a previous podcast with Abuna Abraham there that was said was a lot of people, what they do, he said this, like a lot of people, they have a bucket for God, a bucket for school, a bucket for work, when it should be a bucket for school, bucket for whatever, but the umbrella overarching all the buckets is God. And I thought that was, it's a very interesting analogy, because you think about it, God overarches everything in our lives. That's what it should be. It should be God first, and everything trickles down under. Right? The umbrella trickles down the water to all the buckets. So, and I think that as Christians, that's our main goal, because by putting God first, think about like all the things that you want, right? Like a rhetorical question. Like think about all the things that you want, you desire. How many of those things can be fulfilled with God? The answer is 100%, right? God will fulfill all things if you take him with you. And that's something that I think, is very important in today's world is taking God with you, especially with all the turmoil and all the things going on and the world around us. It's like you always have to have God with you. So my question for you is, other than like, the praying and the reading the Bible, in order to take God with you, you have to be a light of him to those around you. So in everything you do, so how would you, as someone who works out a lot, how would you use that to bring light to what God is?
How I use working out to
Like how, like if you're not already, how would you, or if you do, like how do you?
Well, first of all, like I try to treat, I obviously like I have my mistakes, but I do try to treat everybody like as good as I would be able to. But obviously, like, I don't, because sometimes I make mistakes and stuff. But excuse me. This is a little bit unrelated, but I'll show you how it sort of connects. Before I started working out, I was picked on a lot. Whether like before I lost weight, I was picked on for being, overweight, fat, And as I lost weight, before I was able to build any muscle, there was like some kids who would always just like, push me around sort of like as if I was really skinny, And I didn't really like that. So that's why now when I see like somebody who's not in their best physical shape, whether they're shorter, fatter, skinnier, whatever, I try, because I'm not to be not to fill myself up, but I do feel confident in the way I look. I try to use that to help these people who are being made fun of, and I tell other people, like, just because you look better than them or you're taller than them, you're stronger than them, that does not make you any better as a person. So that's really like the main way that I've helped other people with the fact that I work out. And of course, carrying the groceries with mom and stuff. But yeah. So yeah, but working out is just, you can't really help God with that. It's just more of a thing you have to do for yourself. Which is why it also should only, like, as much as I love it, it can only take so much of my life, or else it'll just, because it's not very, like, can't really help God with it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think in all things, right, you can serve God, right, in all things. Because first off, if God is the center of all things, then you're taking God with you, so you're serving God. But I think you can always use whatever God, because you think about it, like, this is a talent that God has given you. Right, the passion to work out, the desire to get big, like that is something that God has put in your heart, right? However way he did it, but that's something that he put in your heart. And if he put it in your heart, that means that there's a way to take that and to make it about God, right? I mean, obviously I don't know the answer. I mean, that's something like for every single one of us, we have to figure out for ourselves, what is the talent God gave me? And then the follow-up, how do I use that to, to display God, to show God to the world. And I think, that all comes from self-improvement, right? Mm-hmm. If you're sitting at home all day doing nothing, you're never going to figure out what talent you have, right? You got to try new stuff, right? You got to figure out your talents. And once you have your talents, you have to work on them, right? Like, obviously I sometimes believe I have a talent for speaking. If I just sat at home and didn't talk to anyone all day, right? I mean, what am I doing with my talent? I'm like the guy who, in the story of the talents, who just put the talent in the ground and covered it with the dirt, right? So obviously I don't want to do that. I want to increase it. I want to show, put work into it and kind of develop the talent so that I can serve God better, right? And in the same way with working out, you have to work on it, and that's what you're doing. Obviously you're going to the gym, you're working out, and somewhere along the line, there's a time where it's like, God wants to use you for something, and it might be something like kind of random that's like not super related, it all depends. So for a lot of every talent, there's always something to do with it, and I think that's why God gives us all different things, right? Because you fulfill one. It's like what St. Paul says, like some are teachers, some are prophets, some are whatever. Like he lists like 10 different things, and some are this, some are that, some are whatever. None is better than the other, but they all have different roles. And I think it's something that as Christians we need to understand, that we can't do it all, We need to work together to do these things, to self-improve, to improve each other, to help push each other in the right direction. I think it's very vital to like the future of the church and just Christianity in general and just the world as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And who knows? Maybe like one day we'll be building a church or something. I could help out. I don't know. But yeah, it's just like, there is like a way where I guess I sort of did, but it's not like, I can remember that one trip that we went to in June where we were like,
yeah, explain for the people a little
yeah.
bit.
So we went to this mission trip in June where we were helping out like refugees and stuff, and it was like tough labor. Like we were moving mulch and stuff like that, and it wasn't like I was able to do well, I guess. So I mean, I guess that counts.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest services is stuff like that, like the refugee stuff or like mission trips, and those take muscles, man.
Yeah.
Like when I went to Zambia, like skinny, frail freshman Isaiah, wearing like 120 pounds, is just constant lifting, constant moving, constant walking, which obviously I suggest to everyone on the planet to go on at least one mission trip before you leave college. That's like one of my many asks. It's so important. You learn so much about yourself and about others, and it puts really everything into perspective. But it really helps. That's one of the things where you learn kind of what talents God gives you, like trips like that. Whether it's going to refugees, whatever, because you're forced to do so much, and you're forced to rely on God, like almost entirely, because you're just so tired, so worked, and you're just moving from here to here to here to here, doing all these things you never knew you could do, right? Like I was in a sling when we were on this trip. Like I was not, obviously not doing the labor stuff, so I had to do something else. So you always learn kind of what things you can and can't do, and then you got to take that knowledge and, kind of apply it. So
yeah, and no matter what talent you have, you do need God to. You do need to take God's hand in everything, no matter how good you are. Like, for instance, if you're like at church and you're, a lead deacon like yourself.
Do not say that. I'm not.
Like I'm sure you didn't always know everything, and that there were some points where it's like you, like not you specifically, but like as a deacon, for instance, like you didn't know this hymn that well, and you were the only one there. And
it happens all the time. Still happens.
And God, you sort of feel like, God is just helping you, like sort of like just get through it in a way. That's just as an example. Like God always just completes your imperfections in a way. And that's it.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say, like based on your last point, is like, you plant the seeds and God gives the increase, right? You take an inch, God goes a mile. So it's like, God will always complete the work that we do. Whether it's for ourselves, whether it's self-improvement or helping others, God will always complete it. So any last thoughts?
No, thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for coming on the podcast, Bishoy, especially on such short notice. I appreciate it a lot. And that'll be all for Keeping It 99. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you enjoyed this episode, do all those things I just said. And thank you.